Hey everybody, Keisha here, and today I am here with my friend
Jennifer Guskin,
and we need your help. We are right now working on advocacy for combating human trafficking, and here's why. So we'll give you a little bit of background of our story and why we're doing what we're doing.
I was adopted as an infant by a couple who sold me throughout my childhood. I have been to Epstein Island and on multiple Lolita Express types of flights as a child. After I went public, Child Protective Services opened a substance-exposed newborn case, even though all tests came back negative, and they told me that if I wouldn't stop posting on social media, I would never see my daughter again. I started to connect how I was adopted as an infant and then sold throughout my childhood, how many children who have been through the adoption, foster, and CPS pipelines have also been trafficked to Epstein's Elk.
And as many of you guys know already, based on the work that we do at the CARES Project, I'm an American Indian born in Canada under the Jay Treaty. My father and I were exposed in the improper contagion mitigations for the COVID pandemic in early 2020. As a result of this, I lost everything: a house, cars, corporate assets, jobs. Bank accounts were shut down in Canada, and I fled to the US as an American Indian, fully documented, and was trafficked by rogue agents in ICE and other agents in the government, and forced to live with single American men. I was even imprisoned for 7 months initially, and then trafficked throughout the states. Put on full surveillance tracking and wasn't allowed to leave the city, house, or state without permission, or work without permission. And that happened for many years, and I was on and off the streets because of that, and in and out of shelters. And that is just a small example of what many go through in this trafficking system, be it the family courts or otherwise. So that's why the CARES Project will be going to DC to speak with representatives and do live reporting. We're also going to be in contact with other families who are dealing with human trafficking, and through the CPS courts or through any other means, lesser versions of trafficking, and doing reporting on them live and otherwise. We will also be working on, we ultimately want to shine light on what's going on with the trafficking here in the US. And we also want to meet with various agencies in DC, and we'll be going back and forth for training sessions and other things so that we can be better equipped to help people deal with resolving some of the issues that we're seeing. We will also be putting forth petitions in government to help people get justice, and that's something that we have been working on already so far. We have some petitions that have recently been filed in the state of Colorado, Michigan, Texas, and Arizona, and we will be continuing.
But we can't do this on our own. We will be traveling to events and training courses, as well as DC on a consistent basis. We also have to get acceptable equipment, such as computers, cameras, interview gear, etc. There will be other miscellaneous costs that would also be like gas, food, and rooms if necessary.
So that is why we are working towards combating human trafficking, and that is exactly why we need your help. We cannot do this alone, and most what the CARES Project does is on its own dime. And so we do love and appreciate each and every one of you that support us and all the work that we do. As many of you know, we also live stream on Lindell TV every day. And everything we do, like I said, is on our own dime. So we appreciate all the love and support and all the people who do donate, and we would very much love and appreciate that still. Thank you everybody for your time and considerations, and thank you for all the support, and we will catch you guys in the next one, and hopefully we might see you guys in the future and come across you and maybe be able to do some great things together.
Hello everybody, and welcome to the CARES Project podcast. Today I have with me Stephanie Henson, who is hosting again with me today, and we are talking about the trauma effect. You want to kind of just, I guess, say hello to the audience.
Hey everyone, it's been a few weeks since I've been on here with you, Dale. I'm excited to talk about trauma because I feel like I've done a lot of healing when it comes to the trauma stuff, and seeing how situations can affect our lives and the decisions we make. So I'm excited to have this conversation, like I said, about trauma with you today.
Yeah, because I came across, because I've been digging in a lot of this trafficking issue, and I came across this woman who ended up having a horrific experience, and then more than once, mind you.
Yeah.
And then she talks about some of the issues that she had in a relationship, which, when you begin to look at what happened, you're going to be able to see how this affected a relationship. And this is why people have a responsibility to not do wickedness to other people, right?
Mhm.
Just because you can doesn't mean that you should, right? I
Yeah.
mean, and we're, yeah. Anyway, we'll listen to some of the stuff that she went through first, and then we'll look at some of the stuff that she talks about her relationship. So let's
Mhm.
bring up this first clip here.
Hello. It's been a while since I've made a video talking publicly about things. It's been a very rough year for me. I've gone through a lot of transitions, having lost a partner, moving, finally settling into my new place and feeling like home and at peace. It's been difficult. And also to add, just the online harassment that I receive on a regular basis from bullies and just people doxing me on the internet. It's just an ongoing process of just trying to grow and move forward and not let people bring me down. But that is a part of life, and when you are an active person in entertainment or social media or whatever it may be, whatever people want to call themselves, content creators, it's just something that you're going to have to face, right? Like, people are always going to bring other people down that put themselves out there. And I wanted to clarify, because I've gotten a lot of feedback talking publicly about my experiences with abusive porn sites, specifically facial abuse. And a lot of their followers and even the owner himself have just continued to harass me, calling me a hypocrite, making fun of me, taking videos of me and mixing them with the porn video, just doxing me on the internet. And like, it's sad that people have to spend their time doing this, when my only intention by speaking publicly about this was to help other people, specifically young women, to avoid going into situations that I did, right? That you're gonna have to face consequences down the road. And let me state this, because there's been a lot of, I think, confusion, people taking things that I've said out of context or saying inaccurate things. I am 31 years old. I started shooting porn at 20 years old. So we're talking over 10 years ago. Facial abuse was, I believe, my third company that I shot for. And I was 21 or 20. I can't actually remember my exact age. I have to kind of look back in my timeline. But I was around, it was before I was 22, or it might have been 22. It was a very confusing point in my life, right? I was just kind of starting out in my career, if you want to call it that, my exploration in the porn industry. And back then, it was a lot more unregulated. People did not have as much awareness about what was going on in that world. And it was very easy for young women to get taken advantage of by agents or porn companies that basically said, oh, work with us and you're going to blow up or you're going to get famous. And I'm young and just wanting to move out to the West Coast and start a life and, just aim to just build a following, right? And to just kind of create some type of success. Confused about where it was going to start from.
What this girl didn't say and she talks a little bit more in a couple other clips that we'll see. But I watched a documentary that talked about these types of things, and the girls got abused. Like they were slapping them, beating them, grabbing them by their hair, dragging them around. Like I mean, doing things until they started to vomit. And like
Yeah.
one girl, it happened to her so bad that like she got like her eyes got bloodshot and like blood vessels broke. Like people get like seriously
Yeah,
like
yeah,
hurt,
by that.
right? And this was one
Yeah.
of the places that she went to, and
Mhm.
then they put that stuff up online, and that's insane.
You're very vulnerable, and you're especially. I mean, I remember being in my early 20s, and I was very vulnerable. I was very trying to figure out who I was, building self confidence and all of that. And then you put yourself in situations that like you shouldn't be putting yourself into because you're vulnerable. And like she said, she was trying to create a following. I know with me, I went a different route when it came to creating a following. I didn't go the porn route, but I went the social media content and what she talks about, like the doxing and the when you do this kind of stuff, like people are going to come after you. They're going to come after you for your past. They're going to come after you for a lot of things, and I think that's. I mean, I know that she's getting at like this abuse stuff, but when she's talking about the doxing and stuff like that, is that causes more trauma on you, and it is a part of the process of growing and learning how to love yourself. But yeah,
Yeah, so that is definitely something that's that is going on, and this is an issue because when these kinds of things happen, like I don't know what exactly like her everything in her situation, but I know these types of things that go on and they need to
Mhm.
stop, right?
Yeah.
And when I looked at, she was interviewed on another place, um, and so forth that talked about this, and so when you go through these things, and my daughter and I, we talked just about some of the stuff that they were doing, and it was
Mhm.
it was mind blowing. Like when I was like editing the clips, I wanted to throw
Mhm.
up. Like I mean, I had to like blur out most of it because even though it's obviously not showing the nudity and stuff like that, they're showing people getting beat and all of that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And then I had to take out some of the wording because the wording that they used was terrible, right? Like nobody should be replicating this and so forth. So now you're looking at the type of effects that people are having dealing with this. And
Mhm.
so yes, this is something that I mean that's one case, but we're seeing this happening all over the place, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
this, yes. And I want to just bring up something so that when people see this stuff, they have an understanding of what's going on because I want people to listen to. We'll put this, bring this clip up here. So we'll put this one up here. When I saw this, I was very disturbed as well. Is it this one? Yeah. These guys are talking about what they have over with their content. These guys went ahead and they went undercover, and that like one of the some of these abusive things are up on some of these porn sites, and they're directing them directly towards children. And listen to what they're saying.
How are you gonna tell me like who's in that video if the girl's not showing her face? Like that wouldn't hold in court. That would be the loophole that I always like. I look at that and I'm like, that's stupid, but everybody is just kind of rolling with it.
Why don't they just roll with it? Why don't they say something?
It costs money.
Who exploits the loophole?
Fucking everybody. Everyone. So you make a lot of money.
Do rapists use it or?
Of course. We've brought it up to the CPO, we brought it up to the CLO, and they're both telling us it's all good. And the CPO is especially telling us, like, fuck off, it's all good. Like, stop.
So they know the
like,
risk.
shut up. I'd be like, it's all good. I'm not gonna get caught. It's fine.
But what if like the government was to find out about this loophole? What would they do?
I don't know. They're not gonna do shit. They'll do nothing. 'Cause they're dumb. They don't know shit. 'Cause they're not qualified to identify the loophole.
Meet Mike Farley. Farley is a product manager at Pornhub who has been working at Pornhub for more than 10 years. In fact, Farley tells our undercover reporter he was one of Pornhub's first employees.
I stick around because when we first made the site, there was when I got hired there was 6 people, and now we're 300.
Wait, 10 years ago there were 6 people at Pornhub?
Yeah.
Pornhub is the most trafficked pornography website and one of the most trafficked websites overall in the world. Pornhub is commonly called a tube site, allowing the general public to upload videos. Pornhub's parent company, MindGeek, now rebranding as ALO, owns many big-name porn sites. News reports and lawsuits have claimed Pornhub is complicit in abusers uploading illegal videos, and Pornhub has publicly claimed to have cleaned up its site. We sent an undercover journalist to talk with Mike Farley and other MindGeek employees to get the truth. Watch the following admissions.
Do you think anything slips through the cracks?
Of course. 100%.
How?
I don't know, because it's stupid. Because at the end of the day, it's how are you gonna tell me who's in that video of the girl's not showing her face? You're trying to match boobs and birthmarks on their butts and stuff. You're trying to, I know this guy's dick, man. That's definitely this guy.
So someone could still lie and get around it?
Because it's stupid. Because it's I could be a content uploader, and the only thing you need from me is you don't need a picture of my dick. You need an ID. Right? You need my driver's license, which has my face on it. It has just my face on it. You don't see my body on it. And now my videos never have my face.
Yeah.
But you have to be no, that guy's body and his dick matches his face. That's what compliance people are basically saying. But it's try it, that wouldn't hold in court, you know what I mean? That's so subjective. It's not factual, it's your opinion. You think that? Okay.
Wow,
you can't really guarantee that. That would be the loophole that I always I look at that and I'm that's stupid, but everybody is just kind of rolling with it.
Why don't they just roll with it? Why don't they say something?
It costs money. It would be counterintuitive to the business. You basically don't want to make your company more compliant than it has to be, right?
Yeah.
Because then it's just wasted money. Not only does it cost money to make it compliant, you're reducing the income because of that too.
So
I'm confused. I'm kind of confused what he's talking about. So is he talking about, because he's talking about people, it seems in that video he's talking almost people don't want that they should get paid. I don't know where it's going. I didn't get kids out of that, but is that what they're talking about?
Okay, I'll put something else that'll put the connection to that. This is how their content works for their uploading. So they don't have any verification. So for example, there's people that were raped on there. They have a lot of this violent content that's on there. A lot of these girls ended up filing, for one company that was affiliated with them called Girls Do Porn. They actually, some of the guys that are there, they're in jail, and one of them actually trafficked a 17-year-old girl, and then they were up on other trafficking charges. One guy got 10 years, the other guy got 14 years. Then they are putting this content in front of children. There was we had looked at some of the stuff where they made admissions, and one guy actually talked about it and said, well, if we could help change a 12-year-old's mind on what gender or sexuality they want to go and be with, I don't see a problem with it. This guy's sitting down and saying these things. And then I'll pull up something here. It's a short one that talks about the percentage of children that are consuming this. And then when you think about kind of the stuff that she was going through and what they're talking about here about all the different types of crimes that people are using, that rapists are using their site to film rapes and put them online. And then children are watching this.
Yeah,
right?
That's yeah.
Right? And I'll get the thing here with the statistics so that you can see it for yourself, and then we'll kind of just discuss it a little bit more, because that's trauma that children should not have at all. One bit.
But the one thing I will say is children are searching this stuff, because I know when I was younger, I hung out with my guy friends when I was in middle school, and they were watching porn. Me and my friends in 5th grade, her parents had videos that we would sneak and watch when they weren't around, right? So it's like kids are very curious. And the thing is, these porn sites, because you don't have to check an ID before you go on there, you can just say you're 18. Like there's no looking for proof, right? Anybody can look at it. But the thing is, these kids go searching, and so it's not necessarily that I don't think that these sites are purposely putting it in front of kids. I think that kids go and search it, and that's an issue. Right? The internet is a very open portal, and anybody can look anything up at any time. I know my daughter and her friend have looked at penises before, and I was like, maybe we shouldn't do that because I don't know what's going to pop up. You know what I mean? So it's like kids are curious. They are looking things up, and that's the dangerous part of the internet is that it's a very open portal, and they can see things that can traumatize them.
Yes. So let's just listen to the clip here that kind of discusses some of the numbers behind it.
Before I had a date with a girl, before I held hands or had my first kiss, I was watching graphic sexual content as a 6-year-old boy.
Porn taught me that it was okay for others to use my body without my permission.
Porn taught me that sex was the only thing girls were good for.
These are real stories of the damage of childhood exposure to pornography, and they aren't isolated incidents. The average age of exposure to porn, often accidental, is only 11 years old. According to a cybersecurity company, 22% of all minors who consume pornography are under 10. 36% are between 10 and 14. Popular forms of porn are increasingly violent and abusive, and the effects of exposure on our children are devastating. Addiction, depression, suicidal thoughts. It shapes what children believe about sex, what is acceptable and desirable. It normalizes sexual violence and increases the likelihood of sexually violent behavior. And the reason that our children are being subjected to the harm of adult content is because there is virtually no age verification to prevent underage access. Big tech and big porn have built a world with a complete disregard for our children's safety. Google's business is search, and because of SEO and lack of safeguards, even the most innocent search could expose a child to violent pornography in seconds. Twitter freely markets and hosts porn, all of which is easily accessible to any minor with an account. And every porn site is incentivized to allow underage access because more web traffic means more money and more consumers. Underage exposure is robbing our children of innocence and doing lifelong damage, while big tech and big porn enable and profit from it. We must demand that every site that hosts pornography must require true age verification to prevent underage access. This technology already exists. The main porn players who developed it just refuse to use it. Hold big tech and big porn accountable. Join this fight. Sign a petition to legally require.
So here, one thing I was going to say to you is that yes, they are putting it towards them, because when you design things, you have to have a system of control. The control systems that they have set up are weak. And the guy that was talking there, he's an engineer. And these types of things are drilled into your heads. And he actually talked to the people about this. And they did nothing, because how did they make money? By the amount of people being driven to their site. So if you put up the restrictions, then the numbers drop, the revenues drop, and the bottom line drops. So people are putting profit over people and children. That they said 22% of the kids between ages 6 to 10 or under 10 watching pornography. There is no way.
But part of that, I will say with part of that though, is I understand that like that's part of the parents in the home life, because if they are, again, if you go back to like for me when I was younger, the only reason why I watched the porn was because of the friends' houses I was at. At my house, I would have never even thought that. I would have never looked it up. My mom was not like that at all, where I would have even searched for it or anything for anything. I definitely was curious about like penises and stuff because I was the opposite gender. As a child, that's natural. I noticed that my daughter is very natural. But like when it came to like sex, like there's a curiosity, but it sometimes stems from the parents and like the conversations that they're not having. If they keep things from them, kids are going to go searching. You know, they have friends at public school where because they're going to public school, you have influence now of other. That's where I was at. It was my public school friends who had that influence over my mind like that.
Yes,
So that's where I
where did they get it from? Where it came from somewhere?
Parents. It was the videos. It was before
Okay.
porn. This is before Pornhub. This is before. It's
Yes,
been, I mean, there's lots of,
they saw that from their parents, right?
yeah.
Now, where a lot of people aren't even getting it from their parents anymore. They're getting it direct access from online. It'll even come up in their video games.
Where they learn that from in their house. I mean, some kids are sheltered a little more, but it's the public school kids who are corrupting these other kids' minds. They're teaching them to go to these sites. So we can't just blame the Pornhub. We have to blame the homes, and we have to blame the children, and we have to blame the parents at this point, because it's not just
the children have the least amount of responsibility in this because they have the least amount of capacity, right? Because a child will do whatever they're exposed to. Their natural curiosity will get them to do things that would ultimately kill themselves if they're not restrained. That's why we have parents, because parents have to sit down and say, don't do this. But when a child is getting this access, and a company has to ensure that they take reasonable steps for this information to not get into the hands of children, because they understand that it's dangerous to children, right?
Yeah.
This is like the effect of pornography on a child's mind is like molesting them without actually physically touching them. That's what ends up happening. A child does not have the mental capacity to process this type of information. And when you're watching that they're getting violent content that grown woman got traumatized from, and other women like her, like the documentary I watched yesterday, one of the women, she hung herself after these experiences. She didn't die.
Yeah.
So if it's doing this to the women, what is it conditioning those children to do?
I agree. Porn is getting, and it's not just towards the children; it's towards society in general. Porn is getting way too graphic, way too violent, and I don't know how we fix that. I mean, you can't just block everything off. We can shut the internet off. Like, we could do that and go back to kumbaya and grow our own food. Like, but who gets to say in how people live their lives? You know, that's my only thing, is that we can't dictate what other people do. Again, children should not be watching this. Adults should not be watching this stuff. It's creating a narrative for these boys to be abusive in the bedroom with these females. And then these girls, right? I know when I was younger, I just did whatever they wanted because I felt like I had to as a female. And so I think we need to get back to teaching our children about self-worth and about boundaries and all that other stuff, and that how you make people feel matters.
Well, the parents have to protect their children. They have to take reasonable steps to protect their children. Those companies also have to take reasonable steps, because if one of those representatives from that company came and took a DVD or even a flash drive with pornography on it and handed it to a child, they would go to prison. They would go to prison, right?
Yeah.
So you physically don't do it, but then they just allow it to go through to the internet. And they have a responsibility not to just allow free access for anybody to come in and get it, right? Like it's like where you had to go before to go to a store and go in behind this, get your ID checked, and walk in and then purchase it, and then you took it home, and now it's your responsibility to make sure your kids don't get it because you went and purchased that. But it wasn't the vendor going ahead and doing that, because if he did, they would go to prison. But now they're not doing this. They're walking around this to get direct access to children.
Yeah, I mean, the kids are having access to things they should be having access to. We can both definitely agree on that.
Well, yes, and when you look at the effects that this is having on people, the people that are in this, and then you watch that because there was no access like this. Like you talked about getting stuff from your parents' house, right? I mean, you're at your parents' house, but your friends that got stuff from their parents' house. It wasn't like a complete stream 24/7 that you can access it at your fingertips, right?
Well, there was my guy friends would go and they'd sit in that internet on the computer, and they'd sit and watch porn, and we just all hang out in the bedroom or wherever the computer was at. And that's what we did when I was in middle school. That's what happened. It's I don't know. And it wasn't the internet. They didn't have Pornhub. They had other sites. Again, I'm not saying I agree with any of it, but what I'm saying is that the reason I think why they don't check IDs is because a lot of people, it's not even just, it's not, I don't think it necessarily is targeted at the children. I think children are definitely accessing it and they shouldn't be. I think they do that because people, like for me, for example, there was a time that I watched a lot of porn. As an adult, I did watch, in my early 20s, I did watch porn. And I would have never put my ID in the computer just because I didn't want anyone to know. I felt very shameful about it. I didn't want people to know it was a secret thing. It was a very secret thing that I was watching porn. So I wouldn't have put my ID in there. So they think a lot of people wouldn't watch it if they did force you to put your ID in there. And so I don't think it's necessarily they're targeting children. I think that they don't care, obviously, because they don't make you put your ID if children see it. But I don't think that they're purposely targeting children for this porn. I think that they do. I just don't like to believe people have bad intentions. I'm not saying people don't have bad intentions. That doesn't happen. I just, for me, have to think the best about people and their intentions when it comes to whatever they're creating. And I don't want to live in a world where I think that they're trying to target children with this stuff. I think that there's other reasons why they don't check IDs. And I think it does come with a consequence of harming our children, because then children do have access to it. So that's where there's a consequence when they don't make you show your ID or use your ID.
I'm not saying that everybody is doing this, but some people definitely are. This is just the way it is.
Yeah, there's creeps out there. Absolutely. There's always going to be creeps out there, Well, I don't want to say that, but I mean,
But Pornhub is definitely one of the companies that are doing this. Like, I've looked at what they're doing, and there's no other way to sit down and say other than deliberate intent. Let's take a commercial break, and we'll come back on the other side here.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day, and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
So for anybody who needs any of the MyPillow products, go to mypillow.com/Karis or call 800-845-2942. Use the promo code Karis. Support a good cause. Get yourself a pillow, or if you want the energy drinks, go ahead. There's other products as well. Or you can go to, if you're watching on Rumble, Facebook, or BitChute, you'll see the links in the description. There's other ways to support in the ticker as well. Support a good cause if you like the content or if you want some of the products. We're going to kind of circle back. We're going to listen to her talk a little bit about herself now. We're going to go over to a different clip. Let me pull this up here, where she starts talking about some of her issues. We kind of go back and forth with this. Because she starts talking about the relationship issues, but she brings in some of what her experience was before. There we go. So we're bringing back this, and I don't think she's a bad person or anything like that. She's had some difficult experiences, but this is just to contrast some of the stuff that she's going through, and what was happening to her before.
Okay, I've recently made some videos about the negative impacts of porn on relationships and society's perspective on sexuality. I wanted to recap on a few things that I didn't really get to fully touch base in the previous videos. I received a lot of feedback from these videos, both positive and negative. The negative was mainly in regards to people calling me a hypocrite, which I can see where they were coming from. I mean, they were basically saying, oh, well, you worked in porn, you still have an OnlyFans, who are you to say that it's a negative thing. And I don't think that people were really grasping my perspective or my point in the videos. And I wanted to kind of clarify these and get a little bit more in depth. Basically, having worked in the industry and as a female, my perspective is a little bit more intense because I've seen things firsthand from the perspective of a performer, working with agents, dealing with fans, dealing with the industry in itself is a very crazy world. But I personally see sexuality is a sacred thing shared between two people when you're in a relationship. You're choosing each other to share your sexuality and your body with. When a partner is choosing to watch porn or say go to a strip club without their partner's acknowledgement, that is not okay. Would it be okay if your partner was talking sexually to another person, texting, calling? Would that be okay? I guarantee that many people wouldn't be okay with that. Why? Because you're giving your sexual attention and energy to someone and something else. And I wouldn't tolerate that for many reasons. But in many forms, porn is that way. Because people are often fixated on seeing and fantasizing about things that they don't have, instead of focusing on what they do have and appreciating what they do have in their partnership. And if a partner, or if the partners are communicating this and saying like, yeah, you know, they know that each other are looking at porn or doing things and they're okay with it, that's a different situation. But majority of the time, someone is watching porn or doing things behind the other person's back because they don't want them to know. That is not okay. It is not okay. And people think it is, and they justify it because, oh, you know, society says it's okay. Everyone watches porn. Newsflash, no, okay? It's not okay to be doing this shit behind your partner's back. And I don't think a lot of people realize the insecurity and the negative impact that it will have on your partner if they do know that you're doing it. And I don't want to be sexist, but majority of the men or majority of the people that are looking at porn behind their partner's back are men. If you tell your woman, oh yeah, you know, I'm watching porn when you leave the house, they're not going to be okay with it. Majority of them are not. Okay? Let's be realistic. I am not. I certainly am not. I have no tolerance for that. Because if I'm not enough for you, why are you in a relationship with me? Okay? And it's not a matter of, oh, you know, it's not the same, like it's just porn. No, it doesn't matter, okay? Just because it's become so rampant and saturated in society doesn't mean that it's okay.
So I do agree with her on a lot of what she said, because I had a partner who did watch a lot of porn, and then he always just wanted to, you know, like rabbits, and it's like, because he always had those images in his brain and his mind, so it's like, are you really turned on by me? Or are you turned on by the images that you're constantly viewing when I'm not around? You know, and if people do go too far, where they go down rabbit holes in the porn and they're like, I shouldn't have watched that. Why did I get turned on by that? And it can create psychological damage, you know. But I agree that watching porn is a form of cheating if the other person doesn't know. Yeah, it does create confusion. It does create other issues, like I said, psychological damage, and it is hurtful, because then you have these images in your mind of these beautiful women with big perky boobs, and your partner doesn't, and it's like then you go out searching for something else, and you start talking to other females because you're not getting everything you need from your partner because you're watching porn over here. So then you're not, you know what I mean? You're not putting your all into your partner. And so then I do think that people who do watch porn do have more of a tendency to go out and cheat. And that's what I've observed in my own life, just my own personal experiences and partnerships who were watching porn. They were the ones who would normally cheat on me.
Yes, and men and women's brains, they're wired very differently. Like, I mean, differently. And so the effects on how men and women generally are, and obviously there's a range in between, but I'm talking about averages. Um, Men generally tend to act outwardly, and women tend to be more inwardly, focus inwardly when they have these types of things. Obviously, there's a range, but we're talking about the averages that fall in under the bell curve. And so you're going to see a higher percentage of men that are going to go out and do these things, because the way that men and women also bond are very different. Women, we want to have more of that emotional aspect, but men, their bonding comes in through the visual, stimulated visually, and then it goes into his brain and wired and basically imprints into his brain. So if he's watching all of these women, then his ideal women becomes clouded when you're doing this like over and over and over and over again. And if you've been doing this from like little Johnny at 6 years old, you're going to be confused by the time. And you're like, while you might have some chance when you're an adult, when you're a child, you're just programmed that way. And you don't know anything outside of that than a life with pornography, right?
Yeah.
And we'll pull up another clip here of her actually talking about her experience with her relationship that actually had that more to go more into the issue about the pornography in her own relationship.
Do you realize that it makes people insecure? Do you realize that people don't want to think about their partner fantasizing about someone else? Sexuality is something that is shared between two people. It's not a matter of, oh, well, you know, this is my private time. This is my private world. I can do whatever I want. Yeah, you can, but what the are you doing in a relationship then? Okay? Maybe people think that my views are intense. I don't think so. I think it's a matter of being loyal, okay? And having self-control. I mean, where is the self-control in any of this anymore? I mean, people are so focused on this constant, what they don't have, this insatiable desire that exists in society now because of social media, because of porn, because of the internet. Have some self-control. That's what it comes down to. Save your sexuality for a meaningful output. Put it into your partner. Stop jerking off the second your partner leaves the house. Okay? That is not okay. And people want to call me a hypocrite because I've worked in porn? No. I've witnessed this firsthand. I've witnessed hundreds of men just messaging and saying creepy messages. Oh, look, my wife's asleep in the other room. You want to like help me jerk off? No, I don't. And in fact, if you do have a wife and you're on my OnlyFans, get the off, because I don't want you following me. Maybe you should go be loyal to your partner instead. Porn could be used as a tool. It could be used as a tool for people that maybe don't have access to a partner. They're lonely, okay? Or, you know, maybe your partner isn't giving you what you need. And you've got to rely on that. Okay, that's more understandable. But communicate that to them. Be honest with them. Have the decency and the balls to go up to your partner and say, hey, you know, I'm not getting what I want sexually. Can we communicate about this? Are you okay if I'm watching porn, instead to help like satisfy what I'm looking for? If they're not okay with it, you gotta communicate. That is a partnership. That's a part of it. It shouldn't be work to have to communicate. And remember that connection comes from vulnerability, okay? And vulnerability comes from communicating, even when it's uncomfortable. That's the only way you're gonna find connection. And being honest and direct. Being open about what you want, who you are, what you need. That is how you create connection. And we've lost that in so many ways in modern day society. And that's disturbing. And that's sad. And people are constantly trying to justify their actions because they're trying to avoid vulnerability. Guess what? Wake up. Grow a pair of balls. And do something with honor. Be a loyal partner. Sexuality is a shared thing. It's a shared thing. And if you're truly in love with someone and you can be honest with them, then you can be honest about what you're doing. And I guarantee you, majority of partners, they're not going to be that comfortable knowing that you're watching porn behind their back. I wouldn't be. I wouldn't tolerate that. Your ass would be out the door. And that's what happened with my ex. There's several reasons why I kicked my ex to the curb. But the point was the lack of honesty and genuine candidness in the relationship of what you want. That should be on the forefront. I mean, that should be something that shouldn't even be questioned. If you don't have the decency to tell your partner what's up and what you're doing, then you shouldn't be in a relationship. So, communication, key. And honestly,
so I guess my question for her is, was she doing porn when she had a boyfriend? Because why, if she's telling her exes not to watch porn, but yet she's making porn, that's the only part where I'm kind of confused on her stance. And I agree with her. Everything she said, I agree. Like, if your partner, like, it is. And I do believe that porn can be used as a tool, like you said, for people who are single and might have some whatever. Also, I think there are some porn videos that can be used for educational purposes. Some people do want to spice things up in the bedroom. And I do feel like sometimes that's where porn can come in handy for certain couples. That's usually why couples would do that. They go to the sex store together and they pick out a porn together and then they watch that and act out and they learn new things. And that's where I do see porn being a tool where it shouldn't be necessarily gone forever. But I do agree that it's getting a little out of hand with the abuse and with the other stuff that's happening and taking place in there.
I'll say this, like, what two consenting adults do in their own time is up to them. Whether I like it or not, I mean, it's not my business to be in your bedroom. It's not. Yeah. But when you're having a lot of these issues aren't happening organically. They're not. They're being driven. And some of the experiences, and we'll go into this a little bit more, were shaped in part with some of the experiences that she had. Because being in that situation where people are beating you, you're gagging, you're vomiting, some of these women passed out, lost consciousness, had to be in the hospital or gone, like, I mean, out of commission for like a week after these types of things in very exploitative situations. That's damaging and scarring. And it will definitely impact what happens to you next, the relationships that you choose, because the more somebody's traumatized, the worse decisions they're going to make. This is why people shouldn't be traumatized. And then if say for example her ex, say he was one of these statistics that were watching this porn from when he was 10, right? And say he's 35. So 25 years of his life, all he was doing was watching porn. And as he gets older, it's not going to do the same thing because there's no interaction with another human being where, you know, all you do is have this thing coming in, like you're dealing with a person, they're like, no, I don't like that and I don't want to do that. right? Like, I don't
Yeah.
want you punching me in the face or choking me. But when
Yeah.
Johnny's watching that, it looks like she's enjoying it and saying that because she's paid to, or under
Yeah.
coercion that she won't get paid, which is what happened to some of these girls, and they were
Yeah.
put in very bad situations, right? So
Yeah.
if they're watching this and thinking that this is normal, how is that going to affect them in their relationship when they've been doing that most of their life,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like a child just
It's not. It is. It does create. Because I know with me, my past stuff that I've done, it's like. But I also have learned from all those things too. Like I know, like now, if I were to watch porn, if I were to do that, I feel guilty afterwards. Like, why did I just watch that? That does not make me feel good. So what? You know what I mean? Like now that I haven't done it for a while, but it's just like if I did now, that's what my mindset would be. Because I'm older now. I'm in a different part of my life, and I feel like a lot of those people are learning at that age. Again, it's an industry that's been around for a long time. You know, so it's just hard to say how it affects and what's happening, and it affects everyone in different ways too. It's definitely not a black and white issue. It's affecting everybody in their own ways and how they perceive things and how they have their relationships and all of that. So
well, they definitely should not. Children shouldn't be exposed to this. Period. Like they should.
I agree.
No matter which way it comes from, they don't have the capacity to do this and so forth to deal with it. And when I look at a lot of people and I see the ones that have been watching porn from young, there were things that they went through because it messes with your brain in ways that you don't understand. And then it becomes
Yeah.
evident later on, and some people can recover from it, and other people, they don't,
Yeah.
right? And we
Yeah.
don't know, never know who that is. It's like you go out and you
Yeah.
hand out crack to like 100 people. A third of them are going to come right back, and some of them are those are going to be just like completely destroyed and just like go through bitter addiction, but you don't know who it
Yeah.
is. And
Yeah.
if you do that to a kid, then it becomes even worse if that'll have an effect on an adult. And so
Yeah.
this is where you're kind of going with that. But I agree with some of the things that she says, but I also see why people call her hypocritical because they're saying, well, you're engaging in this and so
Yeah.
forth. And
You're creating the content for these people to watch it, but yet you're shaming people who watch it. You know, so it's like, which way do you want it? And again, how she says she kicked her exes to the curb for other reasons, but also because of that. It's like, well, if you're making the porn, doesn't that mean that you're cheating? Doesn't that mean that you in a relationship while you're making the porn? I mean, there's just a lot. Like, I believe the body is a beautiful thing where it is our trophy. I do believe the naked body is beautiful. It doesn't have to be a sexual thing. Like even, I do think that it's very natural for kids to want to run around naked, and we've sexualized everything every way, which I don't like. The nakedness is beautiful. That's how we came into this world. That's how we're leaving. It's what's natural. And I just feel like because of porn and because of society, women and men have just become too sexual. It's just over sexualized. That's the issue we're seeing, is that things are over sexualized. Sex is a beautiful thing. Nakedness is a beautiful thing, and it's getting too dirty. It's getting too violent. It's getting too corrupt. It's a corruption that's taking place in porn. Just like there's a corruption or porn. I mean, just like there's a corruption taking place in our government and everything else. There is a corruption taking place in the porn industry, and it is damaging to children. It's damaging to humanity. It's damaging to a lot. I mean, again, damaging to humanity. There you go.
yes,
It
yeah,
damages.
we're running up on time in this segment, but we'll carry on in the next so forth. So I'll close here with a prayer, and then we'll come back and discuss a little bit more of this later. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, grace, and mercy. We thank you for the hope that you have given us this day. And Lord, I ask of you this day to help the men and the women to come together to rebuild our families, our churches, our community, our nation, to make sure that we come together and protect the children from the exploitation, for protect people from being traumatized by malicious, deliberate intent, and that we could keep our families safe, and that we can rebuild some sensibility and put these criminals behind bars is my prayer. In Jesus' name. Amen. And so we will be back again to continue the conversation. And see a little bit more. But these are things that we need to deal with, and the abuse of people and exploitation of people is off limits. Like, I mean, there's no, I mean, exploitation's a crime, right? You want to exploit people, you need to go to prison. I don't care. Like, I don't have to like what you're doing, but if you're exploiting people and committing crimes, you go into prison, and that's where you belong, because nobody should be doing that. That's slavery, and that's wrong. And so we will see you again shortly.
Hey everybody, Keisha here, and today I am here with my friend
Jennifer Guskin,
and we need your help. We are right now working on advocacy for combating human trafficking, and here's why. So we'll give you a little bit of background of our story and why we're doing what we're doing.
I was adopted as an infant by a couple who sold me throughout my childhood. I have been to Epstein Island and on multiple Lolita Express types of flights as a child. After I went public, Child Protective Services opened a substance-exposed newborn case, even though all tests came back negative, and they told me that if I wouldn't stop posting on social media, I would never see my daughter again. I started to connect how I was adopted as an infant and then sold throughout my childhood, how many other children who have been through the adoption, foster, and CPS pipelines have also been trafficked to Epstein's ilk.
And as many of you guys know already, based on the work that we do at the Keras Project, I'm an American Indian born in Canada under the J Treaty. My father and I were exposed in the improper contagion mitigation for the COVID pandemic in early 2020. As a result of this, I lost everything: a house, cars, corporate assets, jobs. Bank accounts were shut down in Canada, and I fled to the US as an American Indian, fully documented, and was trafficked by rogue agents in ICE and other agents in the government, and forced to live with single American men. I was even imprisoned for 7 months initially, and then trafficked throughout the states. Put on full surveillance tracking and wasn't allowed to leave the city, house, or state without permission, or work without permission. And that happened for many years, and I was on and off the streets because of that, and in and out of shelters. And that is just a small example of what many go through in this trafficking system, be it the family courts or otherwise. So that's why the Keras Project will be going to DC to speak with representatives and do live reporting. We're also going to be in contact with other families who are dealing with human trafficking, and through the CPS courts or through any other means, lesser versions of trafficking and doing reporting on them live and otherwise. We will also be working on, we ultimately want to shine light on what's going on with the trafficking here in the US. And we also want to meet with various agencies in DC, and we'll be going back and forth for training sessions and other things so that we can be better equipped to help people deal with resolving some of the issues that we're seeing. We will also be putting forth petitions in government to help people get justice, and that's something that we have been working on already so far. We have some petitions that have recently been filed in the state of Colorado, Michigan, Texas, and Arizona, and we will be continuing.
But we can't do this on our own. We will be traveling to events and training courses, as well as DC on a consistent basis. We also have to get acceptable equipment, such as computers, cameras, interview gear, etc. There will be other miscellaneous costs that would also be like gas, food, and rooms if necessary.
So that is why we are working towards combating human trafficking, and that is exactly why we need your help. We cannot do this alone, and most what the Karis Project does is on its own dime. And so we do love and appreciate each and every one of you that support us and all the work that we do. As many of you know, we also live stream on Lindell TV every day. And everything we do, like I said, is on our own dime. So we appreciate all the love and support and all the people who do donate. And we would very much love and appreciate that still. Thank you everybody for your time and considerations. And thank you for all the support. And we will catch you guys in the next one, and hopefully we might see you guys in the future and come across you and maybe be able to do some great things together.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Karis Project podcast. We're coming to bring part 2 of the trauma effect here with Stephanie Henson, who I haven't seen for a little while, but it's good, and she's soon going to have another edition and everything else like that, and so she should be busy for
I'll be very busy soon. My baby coming, yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna kind of get back in there. We're gonna listen to a little bit more of what this girl has to say about her situation. We're gonna go back to some of the stuff that she was going through, like the guys that were harassing her, and then we're gonna listen to a guy that actually he does this type of stuff, and you're gonna start hearing what this is like, because this kind of stuff, when people are sick and doing things like this, there's no business for this. Well, we'll listen to what she has to say, and we'll continue. We'll see.
But once I shot for porn companies, I realized, like, okay, I'm kind of pigeonholed and I'm in this world, so I might as well just continue to move forward. And when I got reached by some agent recommended that I shoot for facial abuse and basically said, oh, if you shoot for this type of porn company, you're gonna blow up, and oh, you're so beautiful, like people will think it's crazy that you shot for this type of site, and you're gonna blow up and be famous. And like I've said in the other videos, I watched their content, saw what it was about, was kind of overwhelmed, but I was also thinking like, oh, maybe, I don't know, maybe this would kind of blow up and blah, 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 blah. And I gave it a shot, right? And the actual shooting of the company wasn't the real traumatic part, right? Like it was the aftermath, right? Like once it kind of came back and I realized like what I had done and the confusion that I felt about my sexuality and just like why I was even exploring this type of porn, which I don't think is abnormal at that age. If people want to explore their sexuality, like it's okay. But my intentions of speaking out about my experiences were mainly to make people understand that I think it's important to think twice about putting that type of content out there, right? And like shooting publicly mainstream porn. And I want to also make clear that like I don't regret working in porn. Like that has never been the issue. it's specifically these type of abusive porn sites that I think hold a lot of damage and danger for young people that are trying to navigate through their lives. And they're destructive because these companies don't care about the mental health and the welfare of their performers. They're there to take advantage of you at a vulnerable time in your life, specifically these young women, like, you know, like myself, that are confused and just kind of, you know, trying to figure out the next thing to go to with being in porn. And they'll latch on to you and use you. And that's essentially what happened, right? Like, I shot for this company, they praised me, they made me seem like I was fabulous and so great and everyone was gonna love me. But in retrospect, it actually caused major destruction and stress in my life and made me hate myself and have a lot of questions about, you know, why I would do this. And I felt lost and I was sad and confused and I felt like an embarrassment to people in my life. And once you sort of are in that position, it's easy to think, well, I did it once, like I might as well shoot for them again. And this is frustrating for me because people call me a hypocrite, that like I went back to a porn site after shooting for them the first time, but I didn't recognize the real damage of shooting for them till later on in life. Like, once again, we're talking almost 10 years ago, shooting for them. A lot can change in 10 years. I mean, people grow. I mean,
Yeah.
See, this is a difference between the way women and men think about the situation, because I hear this commonly happening between women and talking about how they, you know, sort of deal with that and experience and go and figure things out. That's not the way men think or view things. They don't. And if a man is going in that kind of way, I would say stay far away from him.
But I think
Because
that girl too, what she brings up too, is the trauma that it caused on her. You know what I mean? Like, you are what you surround yourself around. So if you're allowing people to beat you up in a video, having, you know what I mean, what are you going to allow in your life? You know, so it's like, and the type of people who have that mindset, like, what kind of people are you surrounding yourself around that think that this is like, why is this a thing? And they do exploit women. Women are beautiful, and they will find young, pretty females and think, how can I make money off her? You know, and it's not just men who do this. Women will do it to other women. Everyone kind of does it to each other in their own ways. I mean, even corporations exploit in this, you know, people like us. So it's just, it happens everywhere. But it is sad to see how it affects her life, and I'm really proud of her for speaking up, because that is a scary thing to do when you're speaking out against people that you used to be a part of, that you used to affiliate with. It is going to come with a lot of backlash, and that's just a part of the journey. But at least she's speaking up and she's saying, hey, this is how it affected my life. I'm sharing my story, so other young girls might think twice before they do this. So in a way, she's kind of a hero. I think people who do things like that end up being heroes, the ones that are going to speak up and say how it damaged them and how it traumatized them and how it affects their relationships and how in their own families and their relationships, personal friendships, or boyfriends and girlfriends, you know?
but a lot of the things that they did, men would not do those things, and they wouldn't fall for them in the same ways. The ways that they go ahead to get the women into these positions, they can't do the same things with men, because men are be like, that's fishy. You're not giving me all the information. They're like, why? Right? Reassurance. They're gonna be, what?
I know I've heard of situations where men have been talking to doing things that they did not want to do.
Well,
and I don't know where it comes from, but I mean, but men and women both have become victims of this industry.
Yeah, so
in their own, you know.
they've weakened men. Men are generally supposed to be protectors, and their minds are designed to think this way. But they've done a lot of things to break down the natural tendencies. So this is where men are generally wired. Obviously, some are weaker than others, and there's a range. But it's not the same way as working with women. Listen to this man who he was like, I guess, the forefather of this type of genre. What? Well, I can't even call it a genre because there's no place.
This category of porn is what it was, because category is what you call it. It's a category, right?
Yeah, category of crime, because a lot of it's what's happening is pure exploitation, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know every person, but some of what I've seen, yeah.
Yeah.
If you come into a situation where maybe there's a girl on a set who is disturbed, you can sense that something's maybe not right there. Is there ever a conflict that happens within you in those kind of situations, or how do you deal with a situation like that?
I usually, and I'll borrow my mentor's words here, I'll usually just steamroller over it. You know, I'm hired on a contract basis to get a finished scene. And if that finished scene doesn't happen, that company's not going to use me again. So my job, as far as I see it, is to help them overcome their nerves. If I have to flatter them, great, I flatter them. If I have to strong arm them, perhaps I'll strong arm them. But again, there comes a point where you have to accept that as an individual, you make choices in life. And it's your choice to be there or not be there. But if you're still staying there, then it's my job to get a scene out of you. And so you do what you need to do to get the scene.
Your motto used to be, we're not happy.
We're not happy till you're not happy. Now, that's still my motto. And it's kind of a joke, but there's a lot of truth in it. And the truth about that is that I want to push you till you're not happy. If you stay cooperative to the whole scene, then we haven't pushed you hard enough. We definitely haven't drilled you hard enough, because I want you to tell me to stop, and then I'll stop, right? And then we'll do something else. But if I don't get to that point, then it's considered to me to be a weak scene. It's just like Formula One. I mean, people are just getting destroyed by that sport all the time. Discarded like garbage. When you're pushing hard, people are going to suffer, for sure. It's a great experience to find out what the breaking point of an engine is, what the breaking point of a person is. Looking nice with those new high heels.
Thank you, Nick.
See, in my movies, I push to the maximum to find out how much stuff can she take before she stops and says, oh my God, I can't take it anymore. Good little team.
Wait, please stop. I can't do it.
In any high-end sport, there's a lot of dead bodies along the way. A lot of people that got thrown off the bus, you know.
Wow, that's sad.
Yes, and that's some of the lighter stuff that's going on. And you're going on, and some of these women are getting beat, slapped, like used and abused.
I have seen some scenes of some hardcore porn where I was like, is that even enjoyable? I mean, I've questioned, are those girls in that? And then I've been in situations like that where I'm like, I know they weren't enjoying that, because I've been in those situations where I'm like, that was not enjoyable for me. I did not enjoy that. I am never going back, you know? So, I mean, I know how that is, how that can happen, and how you can get put in those situations. And it is sad that these girls, whatever they went through with their trauma, with their own life, or they feel like they had to do this, you know, whatever it is, it's sad that people get to that point where they consent to things that they should not be consenting to.
But a lot of these people are not telling them what they're getting into. This is the point. And then he sat down and he said that he's using the Formula One things, and said that he wants to take them to their breaking point. And then when he does that, then they'll do something else, and then he'll do that again. That's
abusive. It's abusive behavior.
That's a very wrong mindset. And then the guy said that he said, well, if I have to strong arm them to finish, then I strong arm them when they're in those types of situations.
Yeah.
That's not acceptable at all.
I agree.
Right? And this is the type of thing that that girl that we're watching, this kind of stuff, and there was worse than that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
you're setting people up and bringing them in that situations like this. That's wrong,
Yeah,
right? And
I
this
absolutely agree.
this is the kind of stuff that people did to my kid. This is the kind of
Yeah,
stuff, right?
so it makes you
I
angry. It's close to home for you. Absolutely, I can see that. You know.
That's that you can't do that to people,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
people who are getting off on these things, a lot of them are being taught that way because they're consuming this content as a child, and it seems
Hmm.
normal to them. Like me and my daughter, we did a podcast. We listened to these girls, and they didn't realize that it was wrong for someone to sleep with them when they said no.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like
Because
they had to be polite. But that also stems from, I know, from my situations, right? As kids, we're told to show affection to other adults, right? Whether it's aunts, uncles, grandparents, or, oh, just give them a hug. Oh, just go snuggle. Oh, just be polite. It's like, no, my body, my choice as a child is what we should have been taught. We should never have been taught to give affection, to be polite, because I feel like by me being told that and being made to believe that, I did say yes to sexual encounters that I should not have said yes to, because I felt like I had to be polite. And I never want that for my daughter,
it,
which is why I homeschool, which is why I'm doing things differently. And so a lot of this stems from the parents of these. I grew up religious. So for me, it was like these religious people, and it's not just religious people, but it just the family I had. Again, you had to be polite to the adults. It was the kids, adults, and the adults. You had to be polite. You had to show affection. Me and my ex even got in the fight about this. He was very religious as well. He said that I should force my daughter to show affection to aunts and uncles, and I said absolutely not. That is her body, her choice. If she doesn't feel comfortable giving somebody a hug or a kiss or anything like that, it should never be forced on her,
it,
because then you grow up and then you give yourself to people that you should not be giving yourself to.
that's because there's not being taught proper boundaries. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with showing people respect and being kind to them, but there's
Yeah.
also you have to teach the children that if there's something wrong,
Mhm.
that they need to say something and deal with that, because just because you feel bad doesn't mean something's wrong, because we get up out of bed one day and we feel terrible and nobody did anything to us, right? So
Mhm.
feeling bad doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. Sometimes a
Yeah.
kid just wants to be grimy. Should they be rude just because they're feeling grimy because they're piss and vinegar that day? No.
Yeah.
I mean, if
In
there's
their own
something,
homes, I think in
what?
their own homes, I think in their own homes, it's appropriate to have tantrums and meltdowns, because I've seen adults do it, and that is the privacy of their home. Their home is their sanctuary, and we do have to have moments to break down and have emotions and stuff. So I think in the homes, it's okay to do that. But yeah, out in public, yeah, you do have to teach your kids respect, but you also have to teach that your kids need to get respect as well. It's not just given. It has to be earned.
Like I told my daughter, there's nothing wrong with getting mad because everybody gets mad. It's what you
Hmm.
do with it when you get mad.
Yeah.
How you express your anger is everything. Because
Hmm.
should a kid have a tantrum and just throw everything around? No. And that needs to be dealt with. It says,
Yeah.
like I always told my daughter, I said, you can be mad. That's fine. But you
Yeah.
don't need to be disrespectful. You don't need to be destructive,
Yeah.
because then
Go in
that's
your
going
room,
to.
go in your room, punch a pillow if you near that angry, or do it. Maybe there's ways that you can do things that get your anger and aggression out without hurting things or other people.
Well,
Like I
exactly.
think it's to hit a pillow or to take a bat to a bed or whatever you need to do to get your aggression out. 'Cause some
Well,
people have to do that
imagine if you see a 40-year-old just throwing themselves down on the
on
ground,
a
like,
ground.
right?
Uh,
Right?
yeah.
So,
I have seen adults scream in people's faces where I'm like, why are you are an adult and you're screaming like that in somebody's face? So I have seen adults have some crazy temper tantrums. But I mean, everyone has them, but yeah, you have to teach your kids the right way to have them.
well, it just makes their life easier when that happens. So,
Mhm.
this is why we have to have conversations and deal with these things. And men need to get on the horse, because a lot of these times when I look at these things, women don't see them until after, where men will see them beforehand, because
Mhm.
the way that we go about doing things is different, and that's differences in thinking. And so it's easier for a man to see what another man is doing. It's easier for a
Mhm.
woman to see what another woman's doing, because you're like them, right? Like, right? We don't understand what you guys do. You guys don't understand what we do. And so if they're working together, then you're going to see a lot less pitfalls, right?
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
the things that, for example, in your with you and your partner, the things that
Mhm.
you can't do, he can do, and the things that
Yeah.
you can't do, he can't. Like, I mean, you both complement each other, and that's kind of
Yeah.
the way that we want things to work. Because isolation is the best way to like take care of anybody, right? Like if you
Yeah.
want to exploit them, isolate them, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, let's go ahead and continue and listen to what she had to say. But keep in mind that that kind of stuff and worse was what she went there for, and then it had an effect on her. And then we'll get to her talking about the rest of what happened with her and her ex. So
Mhm.
let's pull it up here.
There's people that kill people and go to prison and come out of it and become evolved and enlightened people. Why, as a young woman that shot porn, I'm facing so much criticism and harassment from people for recognizing that, oh yeah, when I was younger, I shot for a porn company and I really wish I hadn't, and I recognize that, and I want to prevent other young women from making decisions that I did. That makes me a bad person, like for speaking publicly about my experiences. Like I'm just trying to help other performers or curious people that your mental health is so important, and these type of companies don't give a about your mental health. They're there to use you. And this is exactly what this site, Facial Abuse, did and is continuing to do with my life. And it was a very small gap of time when I went back and shot for them the second time. And this is because they made it seem like, oh, everyone loves you, keep shooting for us. Like, you know, you're gonna blow up by working for us. And I just kind of was confused. I'm like, all right, you know, like I did it once, I guess I'll do it again, you know, but like that happens. People make mistakes and then they make them again until finally they recognize like, oh, like, you know, what am I doing? Like I'm better than this and I have so much going for me. Like, you know, I need to move forward and shift forward. And that's essentially what happened. Like after working for them the first time and then the second time, I wanted to move to LA, start my life, and the owner wanted to build a pay site for me and was basically trying to allure me and entice me like he was my buddy. In reality, he bought a domain that I was supposed to have, felicityfeline.com, and then made a fake blog about me, publicly making fun of me on the blog, acting like I'm the one writing it, and has just continued to just deface my name and reputation by attaching his sick company to my likelihood. And I have a trademark on my name. This has been copyright infringement. This has been a harassment of my reputation. And I've wanted to take the legal route so many times, but I'm overwhelmed because it's expensive, it's stressful, starting a lawsuit. And I've seen it happen with other companies. I mean, Girls Do Porn, they finally got shut down. The owners are in jail. They got investigated by the FBI, and it turns out, oh, look, yeah, these people are evil. And the same thing is going to happen with Facial Abuse. Just give it some more time. People are recognizing that this is an evil company. The owners are malicious, and their aim is to hurt young women. How do people not recognize this? And like, you're supporting these type of companies? I mean, wake up, people. Wake up. I mean, there's literally investigative reports now about facial abuse that have been put out publicly by investigative journalists. I mean, a sex trafficking agency, Exodus Cry, has included facial abuse in their documentaries about abusive porn. I mean, people are finally starting to recognize the dangers of this type of porn. I'm just one individual that worked for their site, and facial abuse.
That's it. Good for her. She goes back to that's being a hero, right? She's speaking up and sharing. I didn't realize in the moment how this is going to affect my life, and now she is sharing her story and she's sharing the truth behind these sites that some people have this guilty pleasure that they want to get off by something so crazy like that. And I'm happy that she's speaking up about the behind the scenes and how it's actually affecting people and who these people truly are behind the closed doors, right?
Yes, but what ended up happening is when I saw that and I looked at that, I
Mm-hmm.
immediately knew what was going on. Right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I see that kind of thing because I'm a man. I think like a man,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
And so when I
Yeah.
sit down and see this stuff, and I've been around this stuff, like I grew up, I mean, a lot of people that I knew grew up with, they were involved in some type of sex work, one or the other. And, I saw what happened to them and, people I grew up with and all of these things and so forth. And I saw the same thing happening over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Exploitation is exploitation,
I
right?
agree.
The
Mm-hmm.
players may change, but the game stays the same, and they use the
Yeah.
same tactics for exploitation. And how they exploit women is different than how they exploit men, and they
Yeah.
go based on their weaknesses, and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. And this again is what she's talking about because these
Yeah.
guys they pulled the wool over her eyes. She got into that, and then they played on it, and they know women's natural tendencies because they want to make people feel good. Women are more wired that way and working together and everything else like that because they got to raise kids. They got to make a baby feel good. You watch a woman go and quiet a crying baby, and you watch a man, and they're very different. They may end
Yeah.
up accomplishing the same goal, but how it is different because women will like almost like read the emotion and feel the emotion of the child, where the man is reading the child's behavior and
Mm-hmm.
and basically using trial and error to go and
Yeah.
figure it out.
Bribing this here, bribe over here is always bribe. You know, that's why I don't spend with each trying to bribe kids, but women are more the feeling and the emotional of hugging and, feeling that nurturing energy, I guess.
Yes, and we have to watch their behavior to figure it
Mm-hmm.
out because we're like fathers are straight up trial and error, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
especially when we're dealing with little girls, because little boys we know what they're like, but with girls we have to use a lot of trial and error because we don't know. And
Yeah.
babies, we still have to figure that out, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah.
so, yeah, I'm gonna bring up a commercial break here, and then we'll get onto this on the other side.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
So if you need any My Pillow products, go to mypillow.com/Harris. You can call 800-845-2942. Use the promo code Harris. Get some good stuff. There's other ways to support if you want to support the fight against the human trafficking. You can go to the links in the ticker, or you can go to all my links /Harris, or if you're watching on Rumble, BitChute, or Facebook, you'll see all the links in the description. So yeah, circling back to that, we'll go back in here and we'll listen to actually some of the stuff here of some of the guys at Pornhub who were actually linked to that girls do porn site that she mentioned that got arrested. These guys were
Facial
actually no, not facial abuse. Yes, but girls do porn or whatever were actually affiliated with Pornhub. This is what that whole thing is what started to get these guys in problems. Pornhub. Oh yeah.
To get on, what do you have to do?
Not much. Probably not much, yeah.
How easy is it for like an underage person to view the site?
golden is like.
Let's say you're 12 years old, you're still figuring out your sexuality, maybe even your gender. Wouldn't it be helpful to see, not a celebration, but just like maybe a normalization of something that you think is what you want, you know? Probably helps a lot. Let's say I was 12 and I saw like trans angels, I saw all these different sites. It would help me figure out what I do like and what I don't like.
I need to try to push stuff that's less accepted. Like putting a trans male or a trans female in a scene, you wouldn't get that on a normal mainstream site. So test it out. See if you get a bigger audience with it. See if you can convert somebody, right? Like maybe somebody who's never looked for anything like that might find it interesting and click on it. Same thing for bi stuff, same thing for gay.
If you've seen our previous Undercover releases, you may be familiar with Mike Farley, the current Pornhub product manager who became one of Pornhub's first employees over 10 years ago. And Dylan Rice, the senior scriptwriter for Pornhub's parent company, MindGeek, now rebranding as ALO, who has written scripts for MindGeek's porn sites and advertisements for over 5 years. Today, meet Sil Fernandez. Fernandez is a production coordinator for some of MindGeek's plethora of porn sites.
How long have you been at MindGeek?
At MindGeek?
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be 2 years next month.
While states are currently enacting laws to require IDs to prevent children from entering porn sites, these three men talked to our undercover reporter about children viewing pornography on MindGeek sites, including Pornhub and TransAngelsAndMen.com, which are MindGeek sites featuring studio-produced transgender and gay-focused pornography.
How easy is it for like an underage person to view the site?
Just golden is like.
To get on, what do you have to do?
Not much. Probably not much, yeah.
There was a study that was like, I think it was like 11 years old is the average age kids are now viewing. What do you think about that?
I mean, sounds like my age. I also did so.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense, you know.
Yeah.
Definitely associated with puberty.
Right. Like it's natural.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing is that a lot of those religious groups will tell you it's not. And that's wrong.
Do you think that kids go on like that?
Do I think they go on there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they still go on there for sure.
All you have to do is like what? Probably check a box or something to.
I think so, yeah. I probably just ask you, are you 18 years old? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they've done like too much on that. It's got some educational aspects to it, so there's that.
There's so many.
I mean, especially with boys.
Rice and Fernandez had more to say about their work, specifically in LGBTQ content.
Do you think some like lonely, repressed 12-year-olds are going on Trans Angels and
Yeah,
learning?
I think so. I mean, like, think about it. Let's say you're 12 years old, you're still figuring out your sexuality, maybe even your gender. Wouldn't it be helpful to see, not a celebration, but just like maybe a normalization of something that you think is what you want, you know? Probably helps a lot.
Yeah. I think it shapes sexual attitude. Like even if you find out that's not what you prefer.
Yes, no, that's an amazing point. Because like, if let's say I was 12 and I saw like trans angels, I saw all these different sites, it would help me figure out what I do like and what I don't like. Because if you're exposed to nothing, you have no idea, and maybe you're more like pliable.
That?
I mean, yeah.
That.
I mean, here's the one thing I will say is one of those guys makes a point. He says I was 12 and I was 12. I was younger when I was watching that, and I do think there's a point to be made that I don't think it's right that kids can access all this porn. However, I'm trying to tread lightly in this because I know people are like, "Oh my God, Stephanie!" Like they freak out, but it's like, yes, kids go through puberty at 12 years old. There are kids, and I don't view kids as like kids innocent. I view them as humans. They're humans. They do have curiosities, natural sexual essence, especially going through puberty. right? I started having sex at 15. I probably had sex younger had I had the opportunity. I don't know. And that's the thing is like, this is the conversation that needs to be had. It's not about porn. It's about what is the age of consent, right? What is the age that kids are consenting to making their own decisions? It is 11, 12 years old. There are kids when I was in middle school having sex with each other, and the parents did not know. The parents had nothing. They would have never known because these kids would have been in trouble. You know what I mean? They would have been in trouble with their parents. So this is a really hard conversation for me because I'm, again, learning a lot about psychology and biology and what's natural for the human process. And we as a society have put an age restriction on things, and I don't necessarily agree with that. Do I agree with all this crazy porn coming out? No, I do not. I think it's very degrading to humans. It's very traumatizing for people. It's people who are traumatized who are doing the craziest shit in this porn, and I don't agree with that. However, when it comes to the age of consent, if these children are choosing to watch porn, that is on them. We can't. You have to hold those kids accountable, and they have to hold themselves accountable for what they're consuming. That's how I feel about it.
We can't do that. It's the same reason why you wouldn't give a kid a bottle of liquor and a loaded gun and say, go figure it out. They don't
Some
have.
people do. Some people leave their shit out for their kids to consume that. You know, that's just
but
their
that's
gift.
they're harming their children. People should take reasonable steps because their capacity, your frontal lobes are not fully developed. Your judgment centers are not fully developed. You need parental guidance to guide you to make proper choices and decision-making processes so that when you go start to deal with these things, that you have a healthy set of decision-making tools in order to navigate this, right? Because if you can't make proper decisions, you can't think from cause to effect, you can't judge what's good and bad, you're going to go with whatever feels good. And there's a lot of things that feel good that are not good. Like, for example, when they start
Can't feel comfortable talking to their parents, though, then the parents, but here's a lot of parents do shame this. A lot of parents say, we don't talk about those, we don't say those things. Children have natural questions, and if parents aren't willing to have the honest conversations, whether they think it's appropriate or not, their own assumptions. If your children are asking you questions, these parents will shut down conversations because they feel uncomfortable having these with their kids. So their kids are going to search elsewhere when they are not willing to have these conversations, or they're shutting down conversations with their children. When children have natural questions, children are going to go on the internet and they're going to find that stuff. So I think the problem sometimes is these parents, not the porn sites, is these parents who do not make their children feel comfortable enough to have open and honest conversations about nakedness, about sex, about all these things that their natural processes, puberty, right? There is, like I said, and I'll admit this all day long. I started masturbating at 5 years old. Why? I don't know. Where that came from, I don't know. Why did I have these feelings in my body to do that? Where did that come from? That was a natural thing for me. No one taught me that. My mom didn't teach me that. I didn't see anything that would cause me to do that. So where were those natural feelings coming from at 5 years old? Right? These are the questions that we need to start asking scientifically, biologically, right? Where that natural process starts, where kids are getting more into their bodies are feeling things. I'm feeling things down there, right? Like kids start masturbating around that age. They start becoming sexually attracted to the opposite sex or the same sex or whatever gender they are attracted to, right? I can't tell someone who they're attracted to. That's not for me to say. It's only for myself to say. I can't tell my kid who to attracted to. That's for her to say. That's her choice. I can't force anything on my kid. She's her own human being. Kids are coming to live their own human experiences. And again, like the porn, I don't agree with it. However, what is the age of consent? That's what we need to get to. What is the age that kids naturally are wanting to do this stuff?
Because they want to do it doesn't mean that they understand the consequences of their actions. And the age of consent comes with having an understanding of consequences. A child does not understand the consequences.
They know if they have sex, they're going to get pregnant. They know that if they're not careful and they have sex, they're going to get pregnant. They may not know about the psychological damage that giving their body away may cause, but that's for them to learn. Just like I had to learn it, just like you had to learn it, just like he had to learn it, she had to learn it, we all learn it.
That might from what my daughter tells me, that may be the way that women learn, but men don't learn that way. And if a man is learning that way, he's a dangerous man. He should not.
From trial and error. If a man's learning from trial and error, do we not all learn from trial and error? Or
the way that a man's decision making process works is not trial and error in the same way that women do. It is not. It is absolutely not. I watch what women do, and if I did that as a man, it would never work for me. What women do and how they navigate through life, men cannot do those same things. they'll end up in very bad places. They can't. They just can't. And
Yeah.
so when I look at something, I have to look at how did, because I remember what I was like when I was a kid. I remember what I was like when I was older, and I understood that some of the things that I did or wanted to do that didn't end up doing, it was a good thing that I didn't do them, because as I got older, I realized that that should have never been done. But what kids are
Yeah.
gonna, we're not gonna eliminate all the mistakes. But when
Mhm.
you start like what that guy is talking about in the about getting the children and teaching them about sexuality, whose business is
Mhm.
it for him to do that? It's not
Yeah.
his. It's not
Yeah.
his responsibility.
I
So
think
he's
he's saying what I got from that was I think he's saying if kids go searching for that and it's to help them as a tool. Now, again, not saying I agree. I'm just sharing his what I got from his perspective is that he's saying that because again, like I said, 12 years old, I had guy friends looking at porn. I had friends looking at porn. So that means that other 12-year-olds are also doing the same thing, right? So if they are going there for their own educational purposes, again, you're right. That's not his job to force that on anything. But if they are seeking that out, that is on the kid. That's not on the porn company. It's on the
that
kid.
that's how
My opinion.
that's how that's what he's doing, and that mindset, that's how pedophiles groom children. They do. They take, yes, they do. They do. Trust me, they do. They
But you
do.
can't say everyone who says that so because that means that you're calling me. That means if I'm understanding his perspective, are you saying I'm a pedophile?
He's
Because
a
I
man.
understand his perspective.
No,
On it.
he's a man. He's doing it for fundamentally very different reasons than you are. Because the way your thought processes work and the way that his thought processes work are very different. Women and men are wired very differently. He's calculating steps to an outcome, and he's creating the circumstances. Women do not create the circumstances the same way that men do. Men don't ever have to see your face to destroy you or to build your life up. Women cannot do the same things in that same manner, because we are designed to protect our families, and they use those protective measures to destroy their families. And we don't have to see you to protect you. That's just the way men are. But we don't, and that's what he's doing. So what you're seeing and how you're talking about this in your mind is not the way that he's talking about it, thinking about it in his mind. And this is where we have to understand the very different distinctions. Because if a man does this,
Can I
what?
ask something? How do we know that if we haven't sat down and actually? I mean, I understand that those are recordings, right? People can take things out of context and take things how they want. But how do we know that his mind is actually working that way if we haven't sat down and had these conversations and asked these questions? We can't just assume people are this way because of some clip on the internet, and that's where I'm seeing an issue. Is that a lot of people jump to conclusions? Like even in your videos, I'm sure there's things that I've said that you've probably had people who are watching like, what the hell? Why would you say that? Oh my god, because they're jumping to their own conclusions about
No,
where my
no, no,
mindset's going.
no. He's laying out a series. He's laying out a series of steps of what he's doing on how he's moving one thing to another. This is how men operate. This is how we navigate life. This is how we help to provide for our families, is creating the circumstances for them to thrive. And
Yeah.
he's taking that ability from a man and he's using it in a different manner. And when you watch a certain pattern of the types of people that are doing this, not just him, but you look at all of it together, you begin to see a pattern of behavior where you see a deliberate set of circumstances moving in a specific direction, right? Now, when you look at all of the things that they're doing, like the way that they're making sure they're not fixing the failures that they know are there. They're allowing kids to come in there. They know this is a problem. They won't address it because they want money to come in. They don't care about the well being of the children. And then you have people that are doing these things. And then you have sick people that are there, like the guy that we watched, that wants to go in there and break the women that he's bringing in there, and they're entrapping them. And some of these people that have done these types of things, they're in prison for sex trafficking. You have to begin to sit down and say, I see a pattern here, and that pattern of behavior fits with that type of issue that's going on. And this is where
Yeah.
we begin to see the way that the actions are trending. And men, we have to see these things because this is how we can protect our families,
Yeah.
right? And so when I
Yeah.
see that in light of everything else that's going on, that man knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
I have to have that conversation with men and see what they say.
Yeah, I guess my biggest fight right now isn't really the porn stuff. It's more of the kids that are being trafficked through our government system is what my biggest concern is. The kids who are being abused in these foster care homes. And that's where I'm seeing my biggest fight right now is that, again, these porn sites, kids choose to go click on that. That is it right? No, I'm not saying it's right, but kids choose to do that. I know when I was younger, people chose to do that. My friends chose to do that. I chose to do that.
What
kids are choosing this.
What they're also doing is normalizing pedophilia, so that the children will accept this as normal, because they start seeing this, and they see people that are adults that are sleeping with people that look like children, whether they're 18 or not. They're having this registered in their mind. This prepares them and normalizes it, because the more that you see something, the more normal it becomes. And then the transgender stuff that he's talking about, well, they're also pushing this into schools, and it's exasperating this. So when they're getting this in the schools, and then they're seeing it and on pornography, and they're like, this feels good, because now they're being exposed to this, then they're going to think, then it'll feel good if I go ahead and change my body this way.
Yeah.
This is...
that goes back to the parents not protecting their children and putting them in these... I actually just did a live today about this on my Facebook, about these school systems, and you have these different worlds. All these kids are in different worlds. They have their different perspectives in their homes, and they come to school and they all traumatize each other because they're living in different worlds. And so, like, my kid, she wouldn't even know what a transgender is because she does not around that. You know, and not to say that she would be loving to every person she meets. However, she's not getting that same agenda from the kids at school because she's at home with me, and the friends that she does have don't have that mindset, you know? And I think it goes back to us taking responsibility for our kids and pulling our kids out of the system that is damaging them. Because, again, even for me, I would have never watched porn had it not been for the friends I met at public school, right? And I'm not blaming my mom for that. I'm taking responsibility for myself. But it's because the friends I was hanging around. So it's like I was corrupted because of the school system, because of the people I was around. These kids are probably corrupt in their home because of what they're experiencing with their parents, or I don't know what they're experiencing with their parents. But I was not experiencing the same things where I even had the thought to look it up, you know?
Yes, but when we had traditional families where you had the mother looking after the kids while the father was out taking care and making sure the external threats didn't come in and take out his family, then the mother could protect the kids and monitor what they're doing. And if they went out of line, well, when dad comes home, he's going to straighten you out. He'll take you out and make you work till you drop, or whatever,
whatever
discipline that you give them, right? Because this is where society went nuts, is when we left the kids vulnerable. And this is where we have an issue. And then all of these people can now get in there and go after them and access them, because who do we have to protect our kids? Because what are we doing? We're all working like slaves. And this has given them the financial motive to go in and wire our kids to see this kind of stuff, because kids that grow up watching that violent stuff, they're going to be violent themselves, and they're going to fuel this trafficking, and then they're going to normalize adults having sex with children, and then they're going to have this stuff, and they're not going to know it's wrong until much later.
Yeah.
And it's why we're seeing so much abuse in all forms, is because they're removing the parents' protection, and then they're going after the children. It doesn't matter which way they're going, and pornography is helping to fuel it because it's driving it to children.
Yeah, I think it comes back to the whole society taking responsibility, parents taking responsibility for their kids and raising their own kids, and then you wouldn't see this stuff. It starts back in the home. You can't blame any other external source. You have to blame yourself and the parents by how are you raising your kids? What are you allowing them to view? Where are you setting them throughout the day? Who are they around? What are they consuming? Right? And like, you can't, if you're going to put them in the public school system, you can't completely shelter them, because you're not going to be able to. You're going to have kids. You can't monitor what they're hearing at school. You can't monitor things that kids are saying to each other at school. Kids are learning things they should not be learning due to the culture of these public school systems. So again, that goes back to parents. If they don't want their kids to be exposed to porn or things like this, they need to take their kids out of these public school systems. They need to connect with their children and have honest conversations of when they have questions. And you wouldn't have kids go searching for this stuff on the internet, is what I believe. But I don't know for sure because every situation is different. That's just the reality of what I'm seeing, is that if we had more parents having honest conversations, you wouldn't see kids searching this stuff if you didn't make it a shameful thing.
Well, they also there needs to be a teaching of children consequences of their actions. Because this is one thing that I firmly.
Kids will learn their own consequences of their own actions. They'll get it. They'll understand at some point. You know.
This is what but as a man, like, and this is what fathers do. This is one of the big differences between the parenting styles of fathers and mothers. Fathers create the circumstances for kids to learn that face the consequences of their actions, and they do this continually. Women don't do the same thing in the same manner, not even close. And I watch women my whole life. They don't see that. They don't do this way. They do it very differently. And so, in doing that, it helps her to make decision processes where it's in a controlled situation, so that if the thing blows up in her face, she can learn, or little Johnny, or whoever it is, and so that they will begin to develop that learning and decision making process and how to evaluate things, so that when they start getting exposed to this, which it's inevitable, they're prepared to make less tragic mistakes than if they didn't get that foundation laid down from when they were young. Because all of our habits become our character, and we want to form good habits and then allow them to. We're not thinking our kids are going to be perfect. That's nonsense. We just want to make sure they have the right set of instructions so that they don't end up in a body bag. Right?
Yeah. You got to teach them to be smart, shoot smart, breed energies.
Yes. And it works best when you have the men and the women working together, so that you can give them the most well-rounded development. And this is really
love and care they need. Love and care they need, and connection. That's I think what we're missing. Is we're missing connection between parents and the children, and it's because children are being raised by strangers in what I would consider a concentration camp, the public school system.
Well,
that's where I'm seeing the issues.
You and me are on the same page. I'm a fan of homeschooling, and I'm not going to argue with you there. I agree with you 100%.
That's the real issue. If you have to get to the root of the problem, it is because we are not raising our own children. You can't blame porn. You can't blame all these other things. We have to blame the home life and what is happening and what society has done and what we've consented to. And we need to change our ways. Otherwise, we're not going to see a change. It's going to just keep going down, worse and worse. Abused faces, whatever, porn, crazy things in buttholes, whatever is going to happen. It's going to get crazier if we don't take our kids back and go back to raising our kids in a loving, connected way.
Well, yes, and I'll say, because we're running up on time and it'll close off here, is that they would have never had that opportunity if the family unit wasn't broken down in this way. And that's the bottom line. The family has to be rebuilt. But you also have to catch the people that are trafficking people, because it doesn't matter whether the opportunity exists. You shouldn't steal a child, or you shouldn't rape someone, right? Like, I mean, that's just prison, right? But the families are fixing the family is the best solution, but you still got to put the people who are committing crimes in prison. Or whatever. I mean, give them 40 lashes, whatever, right? Make them work. Or if you need capital punishment, well, right?
I don't know. I prefer loving, nurturing. Let's learn in a loving, nurturing way. But everyone's different in how they raise their kids.
Well, I mean, if somebody's killing kids and stuff and so forth, I mean,
here's how I believe. I believe we need to do away with the law and the court system. And if someone is harming your child, you should have every right to get whatever revenge you want. If someone has harmed your child, whether you give them mercy with no death, that's on you. Whether you tie them up and cut their finger off, whatever torture, whatever thing you want to do with this person should be up to the person if they harmed you or a loved one. That's my belief. That's where I'm ending it.
all right, I think that justice needs to be served, and if justice doesn't happen, then we won't heal. And people need to heal from the trauma that they're dealing with, and they need the criminals to stop harming them, and they need to
Mm-hmm.
be dealt with. So that's what we need to do to move forward. Is that stop the criminals, rebuild your family, figure things out without people trying to kill you. And
Yeah.
I'll close with a prayer, and
All right.
it's good talking with you again.
Good
All
talking
right.
to you too.
Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you this day. We thank you for your love, grace, and mercy. We thank you for the hope that you've given us this day. And Father, I ask of you this day to help the men and the women to come together to rebuild their families, their churches, their community, and their nation, to stop this wicked evilness that is going on with the children, where they're being stolen and destroyed at every turn in the schools, in the courts, in the child protective services, pushing the pornography on the children. Every which way they're trying to destroy the children. Help the people to stand up and to take control of their families and protect their children is my prayer. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you all for coming, and we will see everybody again next time.